Hello folks, it's Ian. Thanks for joining us on TartanCarMe. I'm here today with Thomas
Hi,
from Cars
everybody.
of Glasgow. Something a wee bit different. Thought we'd do maybe an interview style. Thomas has brought along his lovely Lexus LC500, which we'll have a wee discussion about. And obviously go through some of the features, some of the detail as we go along. So thanks for joining us, Thomas.
Thank you for having me, Ian.
You're welcome.
It's good to have you.
So initially, the main question is obviously why? What's drawn you to this Lexus LC?
That is a good question. So I'm quite a fan of the Lexus products that they make. I know previously we've seen the SC430 that I had a good few years ago.
Yeah.
And previous to this, I did have the Toyota IQ. Now, I think this came out maybe 6-7 years ago now, and it's always been on my radar.
Yeah.
I quite like the look, the design, the kind of rarity thing. You know, it's not something you see every day in the road.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's probably the main reason that kind of drew me towards them at first. Now, you're probably aware they're available as today's example of the hybrid as well as the V8.
Yeah.
Having come from a V8 and being in the UK where you're paying like 160, 170, 180 a litre, I wasn't really too fussed about going back to maybe paying that with the MPG being about 16, 17 to a gallon on my V8. I get about 35 to 40 on this. So it's quite a significant uplift, and performance-wise, just for the viewers, it's about 4.5 for the V8 and 4.7 to 60 for the hybrid, so you're not losing too much there.
Yeah.
So when this one came up, I was like, I really want this particular car, and I wasn't too fussed, having just come from a V8, that this is the V6 hybrid. I didn't feel like I was losing too much. Again, yeah, it was the interior for this one that really sold it to me. So this came up for sale at Struan's Auto Centre in Dundee as a trade-in of all places, and I was like, I really want this. I went up to see it and I was just like, wow, this is fantastic. It's one of 5 in the UK.
Wow.
So like it's got the special blue, white and orange interior, and honestly that's what just made it sing to me, because a lot of them, there's only about 460 odd in the UK total, so some of them have got the black interior, all tan or black and red. They did do some other special editions over the years, but yeah, this one I was just like, I really like it. So
yeah, that's what I said to you when we kind of came around here, that I like the fact that you don't actually see many of them about.
No.
And it's nice to see you've kind of continued on your love of Lexus. For those who maybe haven't watched the video, I'll put a wee link up, but I did a video with Thomas a few years ago with the Lexus he had before this, which you can go and watch as well. But certainly this one is very unique, and it's definitely a standout car. I was quite interested to find out the fact that there's actually not much difference in the performance between this and the V8.
Yeah.
And this, you say, it's a 3.5 litre hybrid.
3.5 litre V6 hybrid. Yeah.
And one of the things that you did mention to me about the hybrid is the fact that the battery is basically located right behind the seats here.
Yeah.
And you're saying that depending on what model you get, that has an impact on the boot size.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting point there. Like, so if you are looking at one of these, and say for example you play golf or you want to carry something, the V8 may be the only option, because behind the seats there, as Ian mentioned, you're losing a couple of feet because of the battery pack and configuration. Same thing for the convertible, that's V8 only, but because the soft top folds into that area, you even get less space with the structural braces and that in there. So the V8 Coupe has got the largest boot, and the kind of configuration does change a little bit in there. Yeah. So for being a GT car, you probably want the 5 litre V8 for boot space. But then I'll throw you a spanner in the works and say, well, you get over 500 miles range being the hybrid, because it uses the same fuel tank, whereas the V8, you're probably getting about 220 miles of range, just because you get such poor MPG. Yeah. So if you're ever going across Europe, the hybrid might be the better option, less fuel stops potentially. But
and the thing you mentioned about this one, again, I was quite surprised, is the fact that Lexus actually give you the 10-year warranty.
Yes.
Which is a kind of peace of mind thing as well. It's good to know.
And that's 100% probably what made my mind going for a used one.
Yeah.
Because this car's, I've owned it for almost 2 years and it's still got 3 years warranty left on the car, which is incredible considering it was a used purchase, and you know, Lexus do that. And that's not just on the LC, like Lexus offer that on all the products in the UK, so I think that's quite a good selling point. You know, if you are buying a second-hand car, if you know you're getting a manufacturer warranty, if something like the transmission or engine failed, and it's a performance-y kind of car. You're not worried too much about.
Aye.
You can't go to the scrappy and get one for £200 kind of thing to fix it and replace it. So it's definitely gives you that peace of mind.
Yeah, and
It gave me the peace of mind for sure when I was looking at them.
The other thing with it being a Lexus is obviously they're well known for reliability anyway.
Yeah.
And you were saying this is actually made in the same plant that the LFA comes from.
Yeah,
and
that's
apparently
correct.
you were explaining about the employees.
Yeah, there's going to be somebody more of an expert watching this video, but from my understanding, it's made at the same factory. I'm not going to butcher the Japanese for the plant that's made. The same plant as LFA. They're special Takumi craftsmanship people that are able to work on the car and kind of hand finish it off. This car's a little bit more bespoke built than other Lexus products. There is an actual YouTube video out by, I think, the plant themselves or something. It's about 6 years old now, showing you around the factory and how they're all made, and it's quite a fascinating piece. But yeah, they're a little bit more care and attention is given to the LC versus the other products. It's not like a mass-produced vehicle with robots and all that. You have to be working on Lexus for so many years before being allowed to, work on the materials and the parts of the car that kind of final touches for the soft touches and all that kind of stuff.
Good to know that there's a bit of extra attention to detail, basically.
Yeah.
And you'd shown me around earlier, obviously, that some of the wee little features that maybe folk may not know, but certainly one of them is this chrome blade that comes down to the rears, is meant to imitate like a katana sword.
Yeah, I was going to say katana sword, katana blade, that strip there, and it gives you like a floating roof appearance. Obviously, you lose that if you get the convertible, so depends what you're liking, but I quite like that kind of C-pillar area because it gives you the floating roof effect, and you've got that kind of silver trim blades. So there's probably a few wee details that you just get used to seeing. It's got vertical indicators at the front. The headlights up front are the smallest at the time for a production car. Tri-LED, and they're quite a small housing when you see it. It does have this kind of grey charcoal plastic around it. It gives a surround to give you effect. It's actually larger than it is, but the actual headlight itself
quite small.
Quite a small touch. And there's no visible, what do you call it, antennae or anything like that as well. Do you know the SE430 we've done previously? And you push the button and it raised up by power. There's nothing that's there's not like a wee shark fin or anything in this car. It's all built in kind of a seamless.
Yeah, it's very sleek,
sculpted
lines on it, sculpted out, as you say.
Yeah.
And the other bits and pieces where I didn't know, obviously, the door innards are actual forged carbon.
Yeah, that's correct.
You've got the wee detail of the actual Lexus bolts and stuff
like
that
I think
as well.
Even if you own this car, you might not notice that unless somebody points it out, because it's got, as you mentioned, 3 Lexus kind of engraved onto the bolts. It's quite a unique little design detail that I guess they didn't have to do, but they've done just to show you. So the doors in the boot are forged carbon for anybody curious and wanting to see a little bit more. And I'm sure we'll put overlays when we're talking about it. But again, it's a little design detail when you might not notice just getting in and out of the car or whatever.
So from your perspective, obviously you said in your ownership it's been about 18 months or so. There's been nothing major, just kind of wear and tear parts.
Yeah, literally it's just been not even brakes on this yet. Tyres is going to be probably getting about between 6,000 and 8,000 miles on the tyres. They are Bridgestone Altezas for people interested, and they are 21-inch rims that you're looking at. So I did get them replaced for anybody curious. They were £397 a tyre. The back set were replaced, I think, last March. And as I mentioned earlier on, when we were chatting off camera, I got a puncture within about 4 weeks. I didn't even think I'd done 200 miles.
Oh, no.
And because I run flats, you had to get the full thing replaced. So I was like, so literally the tyres, but last year were.
Well, what's been, moving away from that, what's been the more kind of positive aspects of your ownership? What have you been enjoying?
The sound system's good for daily driving. It's got a Mark Levinson sound system in the car. And I think because the cabin's quite well isolated from the road, you can appreciate maybe notes in your music when you're driving. I don't know, it still makes me smile like 18 months later, but I think it's always a good thing you've bought the right car. That's the same thing with the SE430. I had that for years and I thought that still made me smile looking at it and getting into it. And yeah, when it's clean and they've not got snow, it looks great for chrome and all that, because it's, as I mentioned at the start of the video, there's not too many around. So when I'm coming out to a car park, I'm like, oh, I quite like just looking at it, it's quite nice just to visually take in the car. Probably in my head, the downside of the car like this in the UK is the sheer size. You know, we're in a bay parking today, but because the doors are so large, you might park beside somebody you're struggling to get in and out. That's probably one of my biggest trying to find parking spaces either to fit into and get out the car, or you don't want somebody to ding you because those doors are forged carbon. I can only imagine the cost to get that fixed or replaced. So that's a slight negative with it. But yeah, there's plenty I love about it. It's comfortable around town. I said the hybrids for me anyway. Using it as a daily, you get decent MPG for the UK. And it's got adaptive cruise control, which I quite like, which I know it's not unique to like this car by any means, but that kind of technology is quite nice. And
handy to have. And you've got your head-up display as well and all your kind of mod cons. Yeah,
it's got heads-up display, which I probably take for granted now, you know, just looking at it with the speed. I said I use it, instead of getting the motorway set at 60 or 70, whatever the speed limit is, and just let the car do all the braking and accelerating for me. So it's a really nice, comfortable daily vehicle. And you wouldn't think it with these size of alloy wheels, but it does have adaptive suspension as well, guys. So like if you're putting it into sports or comfort mode, then you're able to like kind of absorb the potholes a little bit better if you're driving around town.
Sure. No, it's lovely. I was going to say anything you want to do to it, but it's as it is. I don't think you'd really want to touch it too much.
No.
But have you got any places you want to take it? Any grand plans or anything like that?
I'm going to sound dead boring and say no to both, just purely because I did take it to Goodwood when I first got it. It was about 1,000 miles in 3 days I'd done. Having a large petrol tank, you can get 500 odd miles from it. So literally filled up in Glasgow, managed to get down to Chichester, and then I was able to fill it up down there and come back like a day later. That was the year it was cancelled, remember the heavy storms? So I managed to get 1 day down there. So it's quite good to get a little bit for a road trip car.
Yeah, I was going to say it's good, especially when you get a new car or a car that's new to you, to do a few miles in it just to really suss it out. You get to know it and obviously find out.
Yeah, and I managed to do all the M6, the toll roads, and all the roadworks and that with ease. So yeah, it's a great car. So I think after doing that, I don't know if I want to take it. I'd love to do, as I said, a European trip.
Yeah.
I just don't know if this is the kind of car I would want to do that in, or if I'd want something more engaging, a little bit sportier to enjoy.
Depends what your preferences are, I suppose.
And I'm not a modification person, so I'll be staying as clean and as OEM as I can keep it.
I appreciate you bringing it out. I know we've pretty much picked the coldest day of the year so far to come out.
Yeah, at least it's dry, which you can't always say for Scotland. We've had a wet December, so we're in January now, and it's definitely dry.
It's been lovely to see it up close and obviously get a few wee bit more detail and information about it. And hopefully the folk watching will have found out a few bits of extra information about the car as well. But I appreciate your time, and
thank you for having me along.
You're welcome, and hopefully we'll see folk again soon on the channel, and tune into more videos. Let me know, obviously this is my first time kind of doing an interview style video. Let me know if this is something you want more of, or if you would like the kind of owner led videos. I'm happy for some feedback. And obviously, I'll put a link into Thomas's YouTube channel as well for you to connect with that as well. But again, thanks for watching. Hopefully see you again soon.
Thanks, guys. See you later. Thanks, Ian, for having me.